My name is William T. Follis, Jr.
Jim Purdy.
My name is Greg Newman.
Cliff Carlson, and I was in the Marine Corps in the South Pacific.
And I served in the United States Navy.
I served in the U.S. Army Air Corps.
I was an infantry as part of the Army.
I went in on active duty in February of 1943, and so that I was 17 years old.
I entered the service when I was 20, actually 1 month shy of 21.
I was 20 years old and I served from 1943 to 1945.
I was 18 years old. Well, my mother worried, and it was especially difficult because my father died while I was gone. But I wasn't surprised. Everybody had died that had been around. All of my friends were killed.
I had gotten married by that time. I'd been in the Navy for a couple of years, and so leaving my newlywed wife was really difficult because we had hoped to be together longer than that, but we were going to be apart now for 1 solid year.
That was probably pretty hard.
It was really tough for both of us.
My mother was unhappy. My dad, of course, he had served during World War I. In 1918, he went to France for World War I. So I guess he figured it was my duty and wanted me to do it.
Well, they knew I had to go, but they just, they just hoped I'd come home alive. That's probably what every family was wishing, but they weren't. A lot of them weren't so fortunate like I was. You just wonder if you're going to make it or not. I mean, you can hear bomb, ammo going over your head and snipers shooting at you, and it gets your attention.
My first thoughts after arriving in Vietnam: 1, it was hot, and 2, am I going to be going home the same way I got here, alive on a jet? There was no safe haven in Vietnam. Everywhere you were subject to violence, and so there was no let up for that. And so it was usually boring when we were just patrolling, but if we got into some trouble with the enemy, then it was extremely scary.
You're scared to death. You get up at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning and you go to the briefing and they tell you what your target's going to be that day, and they feed you breakfast, and you go in there and listen to the powers that be give you all the last minute instructions, and then you assemble out on the flight line, and we had our plane was named the ULPY, U-L-P-Y, and we always go to the same plane every time we flew a mission, and then we'd take off out of England and head for Germany. So we were shot down over Magdeburg, Germany on our third mission, and the day that we went into Germany, there's probably 1,500 bombers and 1,200 fighters that crossed the English Channel and went in formation, heading for targets in Germany, and then we split off, and our target was Magdeburg, and then we were shot down over the target area. We just made the turn to go back to what we call our rally point to head back to England when we were hit by German fighters. So we didn't get too much chance to, you might say, either appreciate or think about what was going on. I mean, all you want to do is get the hell out of there. And meanwhile, our plane was on fire, so we had to bail out. Pilot and tail gunner were both killed on that mission. We were hit by German fighters, and they killed the tail gunner on the first pass, and on the second pass they got the pilot. And our plane was on fire in 4 places, so the rest of the crew bailed out. I was a bombardier up in the nose. So the navigator and I and the co-pilot and the rest of the crew, we bailed out, so they captured 7 of us. And then they took us by train after we were turned over to the German military. They took us by train to an interrogation center down near Frankfurt. And then from there they took us to the permanent prison camp up at Barth up on the Baltic Sea.
My last friend that really got killed, he was 37 years old. And he had a desk job in France, and he felt guilty and volunteered for the infantry. And he came, and although he was a sergeant, he acted as a private. And the day I'm talking about, where we were pinned down, and the lieutenant had gotten killed and several other guys, and I said, I poked him and I said, you know, you're in charge now, except he was dead. And I remember that day every day, yeah.
Like this here ship blowing up, we was ready to go to Saipan, and we were loading. We'd already loaded up with these LSTs to go to Saipan, and there were 6 of us all anchored together offshore. And I don't know what, this was on a Sunday morning. We were going to have a beer bus and everything, and I don't know whatever caught the one fire next to us, but it started a fire, and it just, all the ammo, the decks were all loaded with ammo and you know, and stuff, and started blowing up. So I just went off over the ship till I got to the last one toward shore, and I jumped over and swam ashore.
And I tried to keep a daily diary, you know, and it's pretty complete except for right at the end the Germans got in our barracks, and I had it hidden under my mattress, and they grabbed it and kept it for about 2 or 3 months. Finally brought it back. I didn't think they would. So you can imagine I was 19 years old or 18 years old when I went in the service, and my 20th birthday was the day that I walked into the prison camp.
I think there is a more of appreciation for life under those circumstances, knowing how real it is to maybe lose it the next day or the next hour, and so never to take life for granted, and to really enjoy this time. When I got home, it was a great thrill to be back and safe again.
I got notice I was supposed to go to California for reassignment, and then I get down, they shipped me all the way to California to where went through boot camp, and then the officer called me in the office, and he said, I got some bad news for you. I said, well, where do I go now? He said, you're going home. That was the happiest day of my life. I didn't want no more.
The truth is, I didn't think there would be a world by 1970. I really didn't. And I'd seen so much destruction, and I knew about the bomb, and I figured, well, another 20 years, and that'll be the end of it. And so I never really, people ask me what I want to do when I grew up. I never figured that out. I still don't know.
And it was a little rough for me for a while there, because, you know, I was, after I got out of my uniform, I was in a civilian uniform, and I'd be downtown, and, you know, and everybody said, how come you got all the service, you know? You know, it hurt for a while, but I got over it.
What does being a veteran mean to me? A sense of accomplishment, and that I had spent 4 years of my life serving the country that I love. Sense of pride in serving my country. Whether I agreed with the war or not, that I did that. This is my country, and I'm proud to have served in the U.S. Navy. I'm glad it's over, but I'm glad I did it.
It's not true saying I'm not proud of being a veteran, but I'm partly proud, partly feel guilt. So how's that for a torn up person?
Well, I just think of just the little part I had doing there, you know, and the little time I was there. I just feel like that I've freed helped free the country, you know, and make this country free of all, you know, of anybody coming here and taking over and stuff. That life to me is what it really means. I mean, and I think it does for the rest of them too. You know, I think of it all the time, you know, and I think everything, and when you see people now that destroy the flag or you know, they don't pay attention to, you know, I mean, it's even high school kids. I go to the games and stuff, and I see them there and salute the flag or something, and the guys are fooling around. You know, they just, you know, they don't realize how lucky they are, you know, to be in this country. So anyway, it gets me around this time of year, you know, when it's Veterans Day away. I just think of all the buddies that got killed and never came home, you know. There was a lot of them.
Yeah.
In both sides, in Germany or and over in the islands.
Veterans Day for me is a time where I remember my buddies who didn't come back home, who went home not alive on a jet plane, but in a casket on a plane, and so to remember those and try to honor them, because they're the ones that need to be remembered. I'm alive and I survived, and I'm no big deal, but the guys who didn't make it home serving under the flag, that's the ones that should be remembered.